Hello, everybody. Great to be with you. We are Taylor Odegard and Matt Sampson, and this is Between Two Buildings, where we will discuss best practices and trends within the world of real estate data and Proptech. So we're excited to kind of start this series. And so for anyone tuning in, Taylor, who isn't aware, just wanted to give a couple quick intros and our backgrounds. So I've been in technology my entire career and serving the real estate space since 2014. So lots has changed in those 11 years, no doubt, and wanted to kind of get into some of that. But your roots in this space go back even further than that. So I think for anybody who's not familiar with your background, let's maybe go back in time a little bit and just give some context around that and sort of your various roles and what led you to launch NavigatorCRE.
Yeah, certainly, Matt. I'm stoked to have this podcast rolling and reach out to our audience. So Taylor Odegard, CEO and founder of NavigatorCRE. Believe it or not, I'm a 20-year commercial real estate veteran. I studied real estate finance and development at the University of Southern California, so go Trojans. And eventually made my way into the commercial real estate world after really falling in love with commercial real estate. Started my career back in 2008 at Colliers International up in the Pacific Northwest, Seattle area. And over the course of several years, made my way through the research departments from at Colliers to Pacific Real Estate Partners to Jones Lang LaSalle, and then eventually ended up at CBRE as a capital markets operations director for the National Partners Industrial Team. So spent a majority of my career in data and analysis and underwriting and finances and development and all of that. And all that time, there really wasn't a software or platform technology that existed to manage data and manage commercial real estate data. It was all the legacy ERP and accounting systems. And Navigator was a solution that I ironically built in my dorm room back in 2007 in college out of pure frustration that there just wasn't much out there to help weaponize data and to use it. Everyone was kind of saddled with legacy services, internal solutions, Excel spreadsheets. Fast forward today, still Excel spreadsheets, access databases, and now suddenly we've vault forward into this world of AI where everyone wants to be using AI, especially in commercial real estate. And people aren't prepared for it. Their data is not ready for it. That's why we're really excited about this evolution in the real estate space.
Great. So even, I mean, again, going back in time a bit, but even as a young man, sort of newly graduating, or even still, as you said, in college at USC, you always kind of had a sort of an interest or a kind of a passion for the data piece. Is that right?
Yeah. I grew up in Seattle, down the street from Paul Allen and the backyard of Amazon and Microsoft. So I've been a kind of like computer data nerd my entire life, albeit an athlete as well. And was always loved how data came together. I hated math in school, but I was good at it, which was kind of the situation. And I think it finally came to when I got into like statistical analysis and things like that. That most people hate. I actually loved it. I loved statistics. I loved stats and understanding trends and things like that. So naturally, coming from a sports background and then into commercial real estate, as many do, vacancy, absorption, rents, trending properties, how competing assets, competitive set. It has this very intrinsic basis in data, and which is so unique because it's the largest asset class in the world, yet it's probably the most provincial with regards to how data is tracked. Financial
Right.
services, healthcare services are so far beyond commercial real estate with how data is managed and integrated. And ultimately, what I was looking into is like, how are organizations doing this right now? Even rewind back to the 2010s, if you will, and it was still very provincial. Lots of Excel spreadsheets. A lot of the cloud services didn't exist yet. Cloud was
Right.
new. All of that kind of stuff. So I think really where it came from is not intentionally being a pioneer in the space, but kind of being a pioneer in the space. When I started to build a platform and then start to really bring it to the market in mid 2015, 2016.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think that's super critical and important, and just having kind of walked in our customer shoes at Navigator. So I think that's a big distinction. But kind of going back to the data piece, let's go even a little bit further there. So in this initial series, we wanted to cover off data governance, the importance of having a true data strategy in commercial real estate. So let's get into that a little bit. I think there's a few points I want to cover there, but so this year, and we've kind of alluded to it, but we celebrated 10 years in business at Navigator.
Yeah.
So I thought we'd do kind of a bit of a look back on, since you launched the company in those 10 years, from your perspective, and sort of what's changed, what's remained the same, and where are the opportunities today for clients to really leverage their own data from a competitive advantage?
Yeah, certainly. I think, one of the main things that's evolved is intent. Is, when I originally was developing the Navigator platform and really trying to engage the marketplace, and there wasn't a huge intent on people wanting to use data around their portfolio management and their strategy. And it's because you could buy a, Class A trophy office building in a downtown market, and
Hmm.
it'll, clip along at like a coupon at 5% cap rates and good IRRs, and kind of just makes money as it is. And I think COVID flipped a lot of that on its head, of people realizing that the real estate use and real estate space is not a necessity. It should be an accelerator of commerce, an accelerator of synergies amongst businesses and teams. But real estate as an asset class no longer was just kind of a passive investment. You really had to work at it. And so I
Hmm.
think that's been the big evolution, kind of pre-COVID, post-COVID, is that you've seen a complete change and transformation of like, what is the office? From a
Yep.
cultural perspective, as well as even the building itself. You've seen
Hmm.
incredible transformations in how cities are managing their real estate from a corporate perspective and political perspective, meaning like what used to not be allowed for transformational properties, moving from an office to a residential was like never going to happen. Now it's kind of the only way for some assets to transform their zoning and transform the use of that building. And almost every single one of these data points is required to do that. You need to understand the location, the FAR, zoning,
Hmm.
valuations, debt. All of this stuff's coming into play now, and so the entire, call it the data stack, that a
Hmm.
building operates on, is now super important. Everything from the tenants and the leases to the age receivables and collections to the income statements and budgets, and understanding how you're performing, understanding your debt structure. You're seeing lots of changes happening with commercial debt structures, and people having issues with balloon payments and maturities
Yep.
upcoming, and they're not able to satisfy them. And it doesn't matter if you're a big institution in a REIT all the way down to private family offices. Everyone is feeling the pain on having,
Hmm.
possibly being over leveraged, or having very big changes in interest rates effectively dissolve their revenue models. Again, all data. And it's incredible because now these are things that must be grasped, must be understood. And from the CEO through the portfolio managers down to even the occupiers on the other side of the ball, of who are occupying the space and understanding their actual lease obligation, it's all becoming extremely important for this, for the EBITDA metrics and operational metrics. And it all comes from data.
Right. Yeah, and I want to talk a little bit about how ubiquitous that's come, and sort of how that's all exploded, right? Because when I got sort of started out in the real estate world, it seemed like we were at a crossroads where there was kind of this thought of you can kind of have everything in house and have sort of pick a horse, or there was kind of best of breed. And then obviously we know what happened in the world of prop tech and with interest rates, and it blew up, whether we liked it or not. So
Mhm.
um, kind of that in tandem with steady growth and sort of where we're at today in this new chapter of the real estate cycle, it's forcing more creativity, more proactive management. And you touched on the occupier side. But what's become apparent to me in today's market, and just in general in the way people operate and do business, is just the importance of speed. And so I'd like to get your take on that and sort of what you've seen kind of in this, call it post-COVID era.
Yeah, I think operational intelligence is important, and the speed at which you can achieve that and get there is a huge issue. And we've seen that with both customers and partners across the board. Is they may have this intent that comes into play, but they oftentimes either don't have access to their data, they don't know where it is. It's sitting under a relationship or an operating agreement with a joint venture partner or a capital partner that you don't necessarily have rights to. It's locked away in some accounting system or
Mhm.
property management system that's hard to access or hard to get data out of. And so those come to play first. Is access is ironically enough the biggest deterrent right now for people to engage in these engagements, whether it be a third party like ourselves as a vendor, or even internal data and IT teams at companies, saying, all right, well, we've got this top-down rule that came from the CEO of we need to be boom with our data strategy. We need to be doing X. We need to be done by this date. And oftentimes people kind of step back and go, okay, well, first and foremost, do we even know where the data is? Two, do
Yep.
we have access to it? Do we personally have the ability to go tap it via API or even download it into a CSV? And then
Hmm.
once we have it, do we understand it enough to curate it and use it? Meaning, put it in part of a data model where leases tie to buildings via a common property ID, something simple like that. Or
Yep.
your financial chart of accounts across your operating partners actually is centralized in a way where this means rents and this means expenses and this is what NOI is. Those are oftentimes those kind of epiphany moments that most of these organizations have and realize, okay, this is going to be a journey. This is going to take some time, and we don't have a lot
Hmm.
of time to waste. And so
Right.
time is of the essence for a lot of these groups. And it really comes down to having a good data strategy and more importantly, having a corporate direction of saying, what can we solve for now? What do we have control of now that we can get to? And then call
Hmm.
the, basically add the windows and doors later. And so, Navigator, we call
Yeah.
it cornerstone. Like start with that
Yep.
corner block of the house, keep it simple, portfolio, rent roll, financials,
Yep.
receivables done before you add anything else, AI and future leasing data or whatever it might be. Just understand where you're currently at in your portfolio
Hmm.
is always a great place to start. And then once you've got that great foundation, it becomes a very natural evolution. You can build your data strategy internally very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. Okay. And that kind of sets up sort of the next sort of follow-on question there is, so let's imagine sort of call it Navigator or elsewhere, you've got your arms around kind of that core data, the portfolio data, the rent roll data. What's kind of like that phase two or around the corner for customers to consider kind of like that holistic view of their
Yep.
operations, of their portfolio? What have you seen in best practices where they're drawing data from these other sources?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, like I said, it's the intent. Like, no, what do you want to do with this? What's important to you? Is it understanding,
Hmm.
your basic, your occupancy, your lease percentage? Is it understanding your tenant diversity? Is it understanding rolling expirations and exposure to the market, age receivables and collections? What tenants and industries are falling behind and paying you on time? Because that's going to affect
Yep.
your rent, which is going to affect your NOI. Which, if you've got debt on a building, suddenly these debt service coverage ratios and covenants start to come into play. There's this domino effect. So I think
Hmm.
what's always important first is to go in with an intent and saying, we need to solve for this right now. It's important that we understand, all of our portfolio, all of our buildings, all the key metrics, but not boil the ocean. And
Yep.
we always kind of say it as a kind of tongue in cheek, is oftentimes we've met with, customers or new clients or even customers that decided to, future customers that decided to build in house. They have this big overarching strategy of all these things they wanted to do. And we kind of giggle and laugh and say, can you tell us how many buildings you own and your total square footage or total units? And it's a blank stare. Like, oh, we'll have to get back to you. I'm like, if you haven't solved for that first,
Hmm.
everything else is noise. It's not going to be an effective use case for your business. So the idea is if you can start very strategic and very myopic of what are the key KPIs, like here's all of our buildings and our locations, here's all of the key metrics. You're built. Asset class they're in, operating partner they're in, the property code that's used in one of the ERPs for how we connect data. Once you start there, it becomes very easy to evolve. But if you start throwing too many initiatives on top of it and using fancy words like AI and things like that,
Yep.
you are completely missing the baseline strategy that you should be starting with.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's well said, well stated. Okay, well, I mean, I think that's a good segue too, Taylor. So I think we'll get fined if we don't talk about AI and post this. So let's get into that a little bit. And I think the way that I think would make sense to open this conversation is just from a building on this idea of intent and kind of getting your arms around the data. So I'd like to get your thoughts on a best practice around that and how to approach it, because I
Yeah,
think we all saw kind of the evidence that was dropped by MIT with that 95% number, which I think was a little jarring, right? So
yeah,
especially for folks that are planning or have already made investments
yeah,
with artificial intelligence. So maybe talk a little bit about that and like where we can see actual gains in the realm
yeah.
of asset investment management and commercial real estate.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, yeah, citing that study from MIT, I think it was, yeah, 95% of in-house projects regarding AI are failing.
Hmm.
And there was actually another, I think, report posted, which we'll validate ourselves. Like, of those 5% that have rolled out, only 35% of them are accurate, meaning that
Okay.
people aren't trusting them also. And it's a real thing. It's because organizations, oftentimes want to, jump to the hype, jump to the buzzwords, and use tools. And AI is incredible. I've been working in the AI and data space now for over a decade, and been a thought leader in AI. Spoken at multiple conferences, taught at universities, on the
Hmm.
future of AI and how it can be used. And what I always am typically declaring for most groups is that AI is just a better ML, meaning machine learning. It has to be
Hmm.
taught. AI inherently is like a 4-year-old, and I have two of them. So the idea is, you need to be able to explain to them what something is, how to do it, and create repetition. And it's just like potty training, essentially. You got to know where the
Yeah.
toilet is, when you need to go, and that kind of stuff. If you don't teach them, then it's a lot of
Right.
diapers for a lot of time. So, which I'm very used to. So the idea around AI is you have to have that strategy internally. And I think most groups think, okay, I can just use a GPT bot or build my own, LLM using these kind of tools, and it's going to come out the other side with perfection, and I'm going to be able to use this for corporate strategy and making billion-dollar decisions or understanding really complex financial statements and views. And I, oftentimes am saying, yeah, you can eventually, but there's some work that's got to be put in first. Otherwise, you are wasting your money, you're wasting your time, and you're going to bust your pick trying to do this. And I almost
Hmm.
think of it as, everyone, if you take kind of an alphabet perspective, everyone jumped straight to A and forgot to kind of wind down to it. And so I kind of think of it as DI, CI, BI, AI. Those are the kind of four alphabetical things you got to do first. So first is the DI, so data ingestion. You got to have your data.
Okay.
Second is corporate intent, CI. You got to want to do something and know what to do with it. BI, business intelligence, which is where we really start the journey, is you have to have that data structured and organized and cleansed and gleaned and also understood of all that logic that's important, such
Hmm.
as what's an operating asset, what's not an operating asset, what's a down unit versus an up unit, what is a below the line expense versus an above the line expense. These are
Yeah.
all things that are technically in business intelligence machine learning. You are inputting logic from the asset management team, the portfolio management team, the CFO. That
Hmm.
these are the things that are how we look at the portfolio. If you haven't done that BI step, the AI will be wrong every time
Yeah.
because it's just going to go, all right, I'll summarize your buildings by total rents, not realizing that it should be having framework of only the rents in this month and in this
Yeah.
period for activated leases for commercial assets and things like that. So it's interesting conundrum that people don't realize that you can't skip any of these steps. And then when you
Yeah.
jump straight to AI, yes, you can get some very cool stuff coming out the other side, abstracting data using tools that have been built out for you. But until your own organization has even just agreed on what is a
Hmm.
activated lease, what is an operating building versus a building in lease up or stabilized, if you don't have
Hmm.
any of that intent there, your AI is going to be dealing with a lot of logic that's not there, and oftentimes going to lead you down to a road of mistrust, of your own information, and not really framing it the right way. So that's where we kind of take this strategic approach. Is if you want to use AI, you got to kind of do the alphabet in reverse. And
Yeah.
that's the only way that we feel like it's going to be a tangible use case in the coming future for the use in real estate.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's great. I think that's a really helpful roadmap to have in the back of your mind as you're kind of going down this journey. So I think that's really helpful. And let's talk a little bit about because you're a thought leader in the space and you spend a lot of time, thinking about it, but also applying it within the four walls of Navigator, call it. So what's new? Talk a little bit about what we're doing at Navigator with AI and what folks can expect.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, we started our AI journey almost 3 years ago at Navigator. Thinking about different ways and tools that could be leveraged for AI. Obviously, on the big ones on the scene, the Open AI and GPT and things like that have been a more consumer commercial grade product that a lot of people have seen and can leverage.
Mhm.
But even before that, working with original machine learning tools in our framework that we work with Microsoft and their group and other tools that are in the marketplace. I think really our evolution has been, understanding what can be done with AI, and more importantly, what are the outputs of AI. And I know this is a topic that gets, kicked in the teeth quite a bit, but the idea is most people don't realize that large language models suck at math. And what is most of real estate? Math.
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, even simple things like tell me the number of buildings I own in a marketplace. That's deterministic. It's not probabilistic. You need to know, yes,
Hmm.
there are 25 buildings in your Seattle portfolio, as an
Right.
example. Most LLMs are probabilistic models, meaning that they can respond back with maybe the right answer, and it's okay. Deterministic AI models, which is where we've emphasized our evolution in Navigator with our partners, is really making sure that all the mathematical logic, that machine learning logic of how you calculate net operating income or your net cash flows or understanding your total lease rate or weighted average lease term, if you're going to do that with AI, you've got to really train it well, and it's got to be using a deterministic methodology. Probabilistic is dangerous because it will answer back in the affirmative with verbosity and declaration that this is the number and this is what it
Hmm.
is. And most teams will take that at face value and not realize, like, okay, that was only 40% of our buildings. That was only 40% of our data because it was just looking to respond as fast as possible, with as much intent as possible, and trying to answer your question as fast as possible. It doesn't want to answer slowly, and it doesn't want to answer with a minimalist value. So that's why we've really evolved Navigator to have a parallel model with our Navi AI engine, as well as some of the partner tools we're bringing in into the Navigator suite of
Hmm.
products that give you the ability to have probabilistic, more language understanding, like really great narratives. But anytime it's doing a computational element, like doing a mathematical equation, it's using real
Hmm.
mathematics. It's not using this estimated of what this could be. This is the only way this can be calculated, and also even enhanced at the customer level.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting there.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I think for anyone who watched this, thank you for taking a few minutes out and amidst your doom scroll. We hope you enjoyed some of this content. I think a lot of that was very helpful, Taylor. So you can find us at NavigatorCRE.com if you want to explore anything we talked about a bit further. We obviously are out here on LinkedIn. We're going to be doing some more of these. So any topics that are of interest, leave them in the comments. And we can get Taylor's thoughts on that. But visit our website. You can book a demo with us if you want to see Navigator in action, or we also have our self-service offering that launched this summer called Helm, where you can sign up for a trial and take it for a spin using your data and see the power of the Navigator platform with your own data. So thanks so much, Taylor. This was a great kickoff, and appreciate anyone who tuned in.
Absolutely. Thanks, Matt. We're looking forward to doing more. Cheers.